Laura Heath,
Here.
Lawrence McGee,
Here.
Nancy McKay,
Here.
Philip Morris, Lee Perriman,
Here.
Julie Sanders,
Here.
Jeff Turner,
Here.
and Tara Douglas.
Here. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt or amend the agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Lee.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, a motion to dispense or read the minutes from the last meeting?
Move.
Too late?
what? Motion to dispense the reading.
Second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Alright, under old business, not sure what we're discussing about this, but we're just stating election was held for the 2024 Planning Commission Chairman and Co-Chairman.
Could we add the name,
Okay,
just for the minutes?
okay. Chairman Julie Sanders and Co-Chairman Jeff Turner. And we decided not to elect a secretary since we have one that has been approved by the city council. Next,
Can we make a note that I voted against myself?
we all know that, and we understand. Okay, second, we had a work session held on January 25th, 2024 to discuss the planning commission bylaws. Everybody's got a copy. All this is I went through with the notes that we all made and discussed. So I want everybody to look at the verbiage. Please check for misspellings. Cause you know how that autocorrect works on your computer? Sometimes, like when you say maybe instead of maybe. So look for all that, and y'all found another misspelling that was an actual word, so. And then what we'll do is if everybody will read over that, anything else, we'll go ahead and put that on the agenda for the next meeting. And we can either discuss other changes or go ahead and adopt. Any comments on that? Okay, and just a reminder, January meeting, we tabled the, amending the zoning ordinance until all other ordinance issues can be addressed. Now, I know one of them is your homework, which is the sign regulations, the changes there. Are there any others that we need to address before we go to city council?
That's the only one we had time for. That was the bigger one right now, and it was pressing at the last council meeting.
Mhm.
So that's why it was put in the forefront. What is there that you have is just a conversation starter, but this is what we've had a little issue enforcing because some of it is a little vague in the wording, like a pylon sign versus a detached sign versus a billboard. It's a little convoluted, and this is just trying to clear it up, and we welcome any input from anybody on the outside looking in.
All right.
One quick comment, Julie. I missed it when it, the agenda, January 11th, 2023 should be 24 at the top.
Oh.
Item number 3.
I'm
No
still in
worries.
2023 myself, but thank you, Lee. Okay, under new business, we have, our friends back to talk about the new rec facility and where they stand and going forward.
Alright. Well, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all having a great time. It's Thursday. We're almost done with the week. And apparently we're getting into rain, so, you know, it's as good as it gets. So, I'm Stephen Allen, again, with Williams Blackstock Architects, along with Ryan Coleman, here in town with Difference Architecture. He's subtly sitting in the back. So, we want tonight, and we can try to do this quickly. I'll probably would not mind about that, but give you just kind of a progress review of where we are and looking at site development options. And really, before we go, just as we discussed last time, before we go too far, we want to provide an update of our progress and our thought process of how we've gotten to where we've gotten, and share that with you, and take any comments, discussion before we take further steps, just in the spirit of kind of making sure there's awareness, hopefully some transparency, and just, hopefully work toward alignment of, is this something worth pursuing or not? Or what do we need to do to make it worth pursuing, to continue pursuing? So we'll go real quick over development, vision, and goals. Some of our site development schemes and thought process that went there, as well as the existing municipal pool site, and end with some quick next steps. So we don't have to get too much in the big picture of why a rec center or a sports facility, but as we have started working through this process with Parks and Rec and the committee, just really came up with, the vision is creating a state-of-the-art facility for athletic and community functions to enhance the quality of life for Sylacauga citizens, with vital services, and really that bring people together. I mean, they are functions, they are event spaces and sports spaces, but also quality of life and bringing people together. So some of the goals that we talked about and came up with, big picture goals, this is more dreaming, but this facility, this development should have a community impact. It should enhance the quality of life for people here in Sylacauga and make a statement. It's a civic public building that should represent Sylacauga well. From an amenities perspective, see this as a recreation hub for the city with multiple functions and events venue all in one location. And it should also, at the same time, complement other parks and other functions and facilities throughout the city. Then from a setting perspective, we need to make sure it's an economical approach for the city and for where it's located. And you'll see some of that in our thought process we want to show you. And then, take advantage of views to and from the site. And the overall vision for the site, make sure we have an overall vision. And one of the things we looked at was the potential for commercial development on that site as well. So connectivity, if possible, extend walkable connections to and throughout the site. This is really part of an overall parks type of system, so making sure it has that feeling would be important. Vehicular access, make sure it's safe to get to and easy to understand how to get to it, how to access the facility, the development with adequate parking. Then lastly, some of the functions, we have a whole spreadsheet with square footages and everything, but at a high level, looking at an indoor pool with an outdoor pool that could be in the future, or it could be now, but planning it to where it could be implemented at any time. Indoor courts that would serve primarily basketball and volleyball. Of course, that could serve other things as well. Walking track, meeting rooms, concessions, locker rooms, as well as associated administrative space and support space, storage, things like that. So when we kind of looked at development options and potential sites, this is just high level. This is where we are, red dot right now, City Hall. But some of the things we looked at for this size facility, the square footage and parking we need is acreage of 11 to 20 acres, really to do something appropriate. The connectivity should be easily accessible by vehicle, walkability, potential for pedestrian access, should be visible as a community asset, hopefully something that everyone would be proud of. And then feasible. It should ideally be feasible without requiring a lot of other enabling work. such as, ideally, this goes back to the economical part, massive utility infrastructure extensions or things like that. That's part of what we mean by enabling. So we looked at different sites, and as we talked about last time when we provided an informal update, we did look at this area just north of us at the turn in Broadway and 21, where Central Avenue is, as a study area. So this is in yellow, the large area that we looked at, and some of those development considerations and the vision we looked at again were community impact, access, visibility and prominence, making sure it can be a hub of activity, pedestrian connectivity if possible, future growth, what the real developable area is, and then earthwork or development ease and cost. So the first area we looked at was really kind of just north of Central Avenue, Central being right here. We did look at some of this area just south of it, but it's about 30 acres. What's interesting though is, as you know, there's quite a hill there. It's a big hill there that this is the old water tank right there, but this is the top of the hill here. So once you get immediately north or upstream of Central Avenue, the site just starts marching up the hill. So we did several studies to look at this with all of these considerations, and we did a lot of studies, several that show, hey, how do we fit the size building with the functions that we're looking at and the appropriate parking with some future expansion space for outdoor pool or outdoor play into this area. So this is one of the schemes we did where we were looking at putting it, this is Central Avenue, just north of Central. It fits, it looks good. And then we look at if we were to cut a section through the site, that's what you see right here. And the wrinkle is we would be building into the hill. So we realized this is really expensive. Right here at the back side here, we would be, given the size and footprint of the building, we would be digging in and creating like a 30-foot retaining wall, say for the back of the gym or the back of the pool structure. And that would still only be, that would be to the top of the building. So, and this is the existing road right here. So what we realized is, and then I'll just keep going. We developed a lot of different schemes, but we presented 4 of, surely there's a way to do this that would not be as expensive. We looked at, this was a scheme we just looked at, or one of these were similar. That was number 2. This one, actually, there's Central Avenue here, so we kind of pulled it down the hill some. But you still had a 25, 30-foot retaining wall. Then we even looked at going on top of the hill and just slicing off the top of it. It's more earthwork, but you create a flatter area by cutting off the top of the hill. That made parking kind of problematic and difficult, and also it's expensive to move all that dirt. So then this 4th one, we just said, all right, we've moved all around the site. Let's go south of the site. South of Central Avenue, I'm sorry. Let's go south of Central Avenue. This is Central right here. So we put the parking there, and then we put, sketched the building right there on the flatter area. And that was really kind of a light bulb went off, in that money is always an issue. And is there potential opportunity here to locate the facility down in the flatter area that would be a more economical approach? Now, one of the things we talked about and we knew was an important consideration there was, okay, one of the things was this is potential future, whether it's short-term or long-term, future tax revenue producing property. So in some of these schemes, we developed, we showed a developable area that could be sold off or long-term lease, whatever it may be, as an out parcel or commercial parcel, so to speak. And we tested that because it's like, you know, we should not and cannot just not hear that. So what we came to was, and this is kind of just part of our ongoing thought process, the outcomes from those first 4 schemes were that it is feasible, anything is feasible, to build kind of into the hill, but it would be expensive, and money really talks, and the city would be spending a lot of money on excessive site work, excessive grading, and really tall site retaining walls by going into the hill. So that led us into the consideration of, can we go down the hill south of Central in this area here, to be in a more a flatter area. Of course, just to be honest, we were concerned that it's hard to fit the building size, the appropriate parking, and commercial property in that area with it feeling appropriate and not shoehorned in. And so we kind of said, you know, our challenge is, can we look at it in a way where an overall vision is created to where the rec facility with its parking and a commercial property all works harmoniously. So we then studied this area, which is about 11, 12 acres, depending on how some of this is calculated, but we thought it was a worthy challenge to look at. And in some of this discussion, we started talking about, you know, as an overall vision, maybe this could be a planned unit development, a PUD, where we could, within zoning, create an overall vision for this property that would have a more consistent, harmonious vision for the rec center and any commercial development that goes with it, so that they work hand in hand together. And you know, we gave ourselves a challenge and really just kind of said, all right, let's do schemes, see if we can make this work. So we had, you know, schemes 5, 6, 7, 8 here, and I won't take you through all of them. I'll kind of jump to the end of where we got to, but basically a high level. These show you we kind of moved the building and the parking all around on the site, but kind of landed on this scheme 8 with parts of scheme 7 and even parts of others as a next step, as something that says this seems to have some potential. So call this scheme 9. Now, when you see this is a hand drawing, and I think that's important to just kind of, you know, convey. This is all, you know, as we say, carved in jello. These are still high level thoughts, but it's, you know, the result of us trying to challenge ourselves and hear everything that has been said. And I think it's I'm excited about it because I think it has a lot of potential to really think of this whole property as an overall vision, a planned unit development, so to speak, where we could create a master development plan that has consistent planning and has some level of coordinated image and character. And it also combines park, recreation, and commercial uses all together. And really, you know, thinks about harmonious land use, ease of circulation, easy to understand, appropriate parking, visibility, and pedestrian connectivity, and lastly, just kind of integration with everything north, south, east, and west. So, just to kind of go through that, you know, the pool, the rec center, facility here, pool, gym, kind of connected by lobby, locker rooms area, support spaces, would have an opportunity to have wonderful visibility on Highway 21, really speak to, this is a civic facility, a community facility, a proud facility, with easy to understand parking and drop off generally in front of it. And then as you come in right here on Highway 21, there's also a choice just to go to the right to more separated, connected but separated, or feels more dedicated parking for the potential commercial area here. So this is almost 1 3/4 acres, could be, for potential commercial development to the right there. And it also has visibility along Highway 21, and it has kind of easy to understand, how do I get there, which is important to business owners, of course. Back behind the rec center, Central Avenue would have service access opportunities for both the commercial and the rec center. We talked about in various schemes getting rid of or closing off parts of Central Avenue. That could still happen or not. We show it open and connected here, and I think what we resolved is Central Avenue is not, the development is not dependent upon what happens with Central Avenue. You can make those decisions independent, which I think is really nice. So then back behind we show a future outdoor pool area. There's a lot of space back there. It could be built now, it could be built later in a future phase. It could be built in a way that, if it's in a future phase, contractor can make a grand mess back there, and it's not gonna impede what's happening, current functioning rec center facility. You could also have play, whatever you may want there. So then we really kind of look at this, kind of holding that thought and coming down here to 10th and Norton, looked at this area as kind of integrating with the surroundings and, you know, being kind of the park part. But you could have a nice pedestrian park entry here to a dog park. Maybe this kind of represents maybe a nice little entry pylon or entry element there. But then you could walk through all the way to the rec center and then keep going to the commercial space. So it really has a nice pedestrian connectivity as well as a parking connectivity, which I think is a really good goal to have. I think it's a nice goal to just say, let's not act like parking is not going to be important. We all live and die by our vehicles, but to have the ability to walk through the site in a really nice way that feels kind of like a park setting, I think is really a good goal that y'all have. So, you know, that's where this would be right here. And then there's plenty of parking here and here for the square footage and the functions inside the various courts. We've done calculations on what if basketball games or volleyball games are going on, how many kids, how many parents, how many parents of parents, things like that. And then, you know, what's appropriate. And then we would shield the existing substation best we can. And then this parking is connected here, so that, you know, this may be kind of overflow for that, but it's easy to try both parking lots. Or if you just come to the dog park, you can park here. And then looking at, you know, sidewalks, connectivity, kind of lining the site as well, just so that it feels like an overall development, a really professional, you know, city is showing the example of this is how development is done. So that's really kind of the overall vision. Again, I think this represents a lot of thought and thought process that we wanted to show y'all and kind of talk through, and I know I went through that quickly. So on one hand, there's been a lot of thought and a lot of development. On the other hand, this is a sketch, and it's not anything at all set in stone. But we thought it was a good time to come, and I'll get to that, to come and talk to you about and kind of show you. And I got a few more slides. So when we think about overall development vision, these are just some different rec centers all across the country. But I think the idea would be, how can we, as a planned unit development, create some guidelines for consistent character and image. But really, I think also what is important is that we would get to and design, what is Sylacauga? What aesthetic, what character and image represents Sylacauga? And we would, when at the appropriate time later, go through a whole exercise, a fun exercise, to really understand that. And then we wanted to talk briefly about the existing pool site, just because thought it might come up. So the existing pool site is, we had a pool audit done by a pool consultant that works on pools all across the nation, including most every pool that's built for public or commercial use here in the state of Alabama. And we looked at 4 scenarios. Scenario 1 was to renovate the existing pool, and that was really more of a short to midterm approach. Scenario 2 was a new pool with more of a long-term approach, just plow the whole thing down or dig it up and build new. Third scenario would be a newish pool, kind of put a liner in the pool, and that was kind of a medium approach. And then the 4th scenario was, this site is tight, and all of these costs and time frame is kind of longer or larger than everyone hoped. So the 4th scenario was, what if we just look at the pool, at an outdoor pool at the new rec center, whether it's phased as a feature phase or not. So that's kind of what, that's just a snippet of that sketch, and this is an example of an outdoor pool. It can be a lot of different things: leisure, competition, laps, whatever it may be. So that's kind of where we looked at there, what we looked at there. And then if the pool were to go to a feature site, this property, because of its LWCF designation, does need to remain Parks and Rec related. So one of the layouts that we looked at, Ryan looked at a 8-pack of pickleball courts that could occur there, and you could build a new building, or you could renovate this existing building, renovate the parking lot, upgrade it. There's a lot of options there. Could you get more pickleball courts? Maybe, but you want to make sure there's enough kind of, hang out, linger, social space, because that's a little bit part of what pickleball is. So all that to say, propose next steps, and then I'll be quiet and love to hear from y'all. The current, as we looked at various sites and locations, I think we said this last time, almost any property in the city would require either conditional use approval for this type of function, or a rezoning. So when we look at these sites here, it's one is neighborhood business district, and then coming down is downtown business district or mixed use too. So we kind of thought maybe the plan unit development, which is part of zoning, and it's a tried and true method throughout municipalities, could be really appropriate and applicable here. So that said, kind of what are our next steps? Prior to going further, just wanted to show this to y'all, get any thoughts, and you know, before we get into developing and submitting the required info for a true P&Z submittal of this, just wanted to share it and see if there's potential alignment, discussion, etc. Anything want to add to that?
I wanted to ask about, under the plan unit development, was there some plan for some residential, maybe some townhomes across the street?
There could be. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna go back. There could be. I mean, the city has this property. You could do some townhomes or single family. I think going up the hill, it is easier for a residential developer to do that. But there very well could be here, and they could be single family, but given the topography, it might make a little more sense to do a little, you know, fourplex type thing, grouped together. So I'm glad you brought that up.
What do you need to have for a plan unit development? Do you have to have residential in it, or can it be
No,
just a
it's-
mix of rec and?
Whatever you
Commercial.
decide, and just because it's on the plan unit development, once you approve it, it can't be changed unless it goes back through the whole process.
Yeah.
So if you say, do it this way, and this commercial's gotta be this high, it's gotta be this aesthetic, once it's done, it's, the only way we could issue a permit is if it's by the plan unit development. It's sort of a zoning unto itself. It can't be changed.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up though, in that, Matt, I like the idea. I know townhomes, or talking about homes in any municipality, can elicit a lot of different responses, just honestly, but I like it. But once we kind of realized the footprint of this facility is so large that it makes so much sense to build it in the flatter area, we really were more constrained to this, and we kind of just said, you know, maybe that would be more effective to not be hamstrung as part of a plan unit development. It could, if that were part of the overall vision, and we could show y'all that.
Is drainage gonna be an issue in there? You know, that ditch go down through there.
Right. So we've talked with civil engineer, and the short answer is there will have to be modifications, but it's very achievable. So, yeah. And it's not in floodplain or anything like that. So.
Now, there are gonna be sidewalks going along 21 to make it walkable.
Yes, that's showing right there. Yeah. Yeah, the goal would be ringing. This sketch doesn't show any here, kind of at the service area, but they very well could ring the entire perimeter. I think it shows it kind of everywhere else. So.
I have a question concerning the existing pool change, and it's probably a Steve question, but
I'm here.
I have heard before that site has to remain an aquatic center.
So I was told that by my predecessor, and I finally called ADECA, and it's absolutely untrue.
Okay.
Has to remain in a non-passive recreation site. It has to be an active recreation site. So
It
you
can't
can't
just be
put a
a
park
green-
bench
green,
and a
yeah.
tree and call it a park. It
Right.
has to be an activity or something.
Does it
they
not
call it.
also have to be outdoor?
Well,
activity?
pickleball would be outdoors.
I mean, isn't that one of their
Yes.
requirements?
Yeah,
Outdoor
the
activity?
LWCF is outdoor only, like they don't build indoor spaces.
Yeah.
I just heard the
That-
same.
that's why when we're
I heard
talking
the same
about-
thing.
I heard it for 14 years,
Yeah.
you know,
I-
that's
I
why
heard
we
the
were
same
doing
thing.
XYZ.
Yeah, that's a good question. After our last discussion, Steve dug into that.
Yeah.
And
Because we were
they
talking about
confirmed.
Noble Park being flat and great place to build, but that's not outdoor facility.
Right.
And that is also
Yeah.
LWCF.
Yeah, LWCF is outdoors.
That's a good
Thank you.
question. Yeah. Any thoughts, comments, observations?
How many parking spaces?
So-
What are you thinking about?
So here, the plus minus is really
Oh, it's
important.
on the way.
Yeah. But we've kind of sketched around 320 plus the around at least 5 per thousand square feet for the commercial. And you know, if it's office, you can get away with less than that. If it's dining, you want at least that. If it's some other retail or commercial type space, 4 or 5 per thousand square feet is appropriate. So, and when we say 320 plus or minus, you know, we kind of come up with our numbers and then we start subtracting for ADA spaces that take up more room, or how big is this drop off really, things like that. So we want to build a little wiggle room in there. But so then we looked at that and we kind of said, or the way we got to that was, and that was part of the challenge. I mean, at first we were just like, this doesn't work, you know. And when we started looking at this and connectivity, it really helped. But we said, all right, how many people in a basketball game? How many kids? Plus refs. Then you got parents. Then maybe grandparents, or maybe parents come separate. You know, who knows? 2 teams, 2 courts, 3 courts, whatever it may be. And then you could have people in the pool. So, you know, you start multiplying all that out, and that's how we came up with that range of number.
Stephen, can you talk a little bit more about the amount of space for commercial development is actually represented there?
Yeah, so I can't quite remember the square footage, but just in this shape here, call it 7,000 to 10,000 square feet of space, and with 50 to 60 parking spaces, and just based on, you know, kind of other developments we've worked on, what we see in Sylacauga, that seemed appropriate, and also, you know, not too small, but also maybe not too large in that I think hopefully they could benefit from the energy and the traffic being right next to the rec center in a really good way. So you could fit, you know, if it were a strip center, and that can be the most beautiful strip center that aesthetically blends in with the rec center. But that could be 4 to 6 retail spots right there in that type of facility. Or it could be 2, depending on what kind of square footage they want to rent. So that's the beauty of a strip center. It's kind of a long sausage, and they slice off how much they want. So, yeah, that's a good question, Ryan. But I think, you know, I get excited about, I think it's highly functional, but you also have things like visibility for the commercial and the rec center. You have the outdoor pool that can be constructed anytime and not make a mess, you know, from a contractor's perspective, or have to shut down the inside. You get the potential for park space, and you have great park space. This isn't really trying to, you know, totally replace other park spaces. It's small, but it's a functional dog park. It doesn't have to be. It could just be outdoor space, or that dog park could be smaller, whatever, different shape. It's just an idea, but the connectivity through, I think, is exciting to us, and I think, you know, just create some opportunities that at the outset we didn't think were there. So yeah.
How big of a size is that where the dog park is?
This here,
About an acre and a half, I think.
yeah, that's about right. About an acre and a half. I want to say it's like, I don't know, 190 by, or no, about, say around 200 by 200 or so. maybe a little bit more, probably a little bit more, 220, because if it's an acre and a half.
How big is the existing pool site?
Probably close to that size.
Well, if you put pickleball there and put the dog park where the pool is.
It's not, would that count as a that kind of recreation?
I'll make another phone call.
Is
I've
canine
never
in?
heard of
Well,
an
that's,
LWCL.
hey,
Yeah.
that's very
If,
active.
but if you could make it a walking track, you could get an exception to include that, not the,
Put a walking track around the dog.
Well,
park.
just put a little bunny on a thing that.
Well, the thing what we were thinking about
Active
with
for
the
the-
But you have
pickleball-
to chase it also.
Now,
Yes.
my dog would catch it.
Yes. With the pickleball is like, we've still got a structure there that we can save. Like, that building needs some work, but we definitely can save that structure. And you don't need locker rooms and a shower for a dog park. Locker rooms and shower if you're hosting a pickleball tournament, or people are showing up at 5, they can run in there and change clothes real quick and go play matches and stuff like that. So that's why the active recreation made sense at that location.
I was just thinking, you kids playing basketball, you play pickleball and
Yeah.
in the same spot.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I see what you're saying about the
Well, I
building.
mean, it's, you know, like you said, this is literally a hand drawing. I mean, outdoor pool versus indoor pool is pickleball more, you know, something that the public decided they wanted instead of an outdoor pool and just use an indoor pool. Like, we
Right.
have a lot of space behind this thing that we could do a multitude of things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, when I received this job, we had just had an audit from LWCF, and it was yay thick. We got all that actually just now got it all taken care of because South Highland removed their overhead utilities. That's our redheaded stepchild, that old pool, and we're not available for any funding until something happens at that site. And when you're talking funding, it's a 80-20 match up to $200,000 that we could get every year if we were able to get it. So we've got to satisfy that grant at that space.
Hey, while we're on the subject, can we flip back to the pool site? Cause we have a couple of council members here, and I know we've got one more. We have a group of people in our community that ask a lot of questions about the pool site. And so one thing I wanted to make sure that we understand is in scenario 1, renovate existing pool. And then the pool within a pool was at scenario 3, both of those. So our existing pool isn't deep enough to
Yeah.
dive and to swim in for competition.
It's
Even though we've been doing it for years, the pool is too shallow. So if we renovated the pool
That'd be
in
good
its
for
current
losses.
state, there would be no swim team associated with
Yeah.
that. And everybody's, I know that in a lot of people's mind, they thought, let's fix the pools and we can get swim team back and going. That's a good goal.
It doesn't
But in
make
our pool,
sense.
it doesn't meet the specification for that.
Did it when it was built?
And let me tell you a funny story. When the auditor came, he was like, this pool's not deep enough. And we're like, what? And he was like, no, it's not deep enough. It's supposed to be 5 feet. I think it's
It's
4.
the second thing he said when he walked in the room.
So he just pointed to the concrete, and right next to one of our diving stands that they started the starting block, it says no diving.
I don't know how we held competitions.
Probably
13
shouldn't
years we
have,
did, yeah.
But that is, I know,
Without
because
incident.
a lot of people ask questions about the pool site. I think that's an important detail to understand about scenarios 1, just fixing the pool as is. It seems like the cheapest route, let's get it going as quick as possible, but it wouldn't allow us to have swim team.
And as y'all know, and I've been that guy saying, leisure pool, let's fix this spot, right? But when you're looking at $2.5 to $5 million to fix a 1980 something pool, doesn't make sense. You build a brand new one for $4. I mean,
Right.
fixing an old pool for that amount of money to me just does not make sense.
Well,
and a new one in a place where you have room for parking so you can make it
Sure.
better used. Now they have like 18 parking places. It's just not.
Right.
And if the time frame is the same, then
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, I was all about a leisure pool. I'd wrap my head around how to staff separate pool aquatic facility locations and all that. And when they came to this meeting, that's the first time I was like, that's silly. Why would we do that? Like when you could have all aquatics at one location and turn this into something else, it just makes common sense.
And also for scenario 3, the pool within a pool, because there's some structural stability questions that the pool auditor had. We had an assessment done, or actually a geotechnical study on the site. There's no sinkholes on the site. So if we do go back with pickleball, we're not gonna lose them
No.
in a year, hopefully.
Yeah.
We're
We can
filling
use
a
that
hole and
geotech study.
paving it. Yeah.
What's your time frame for a pool?
It's got a lot to do with y'all and the city council.
Yeah.
So just
We can,
off the cuff,
well,
I mean-
money's not the problem, we can fund it as soon as there's a plan.
I mean, I would
so you're
say,
talking about a year, 2 years?
I would say 18 to 24 months
Two.
easily.
If we started now.
Is that to do
Right.
this, one of these options? or
No,
To
this,
do that
if one of these options would probably be more like 12 to 18 months,
That's the bigger one
right?
under Central Avenue.
But I mean, if, on that scenario where we show the rec center and an outdoor pool, we did say future, it doesn't have to be. You could do that now, that it could be designed and bid out to where while contractors working on all the other stuff, you could open that pool. It would not be totally ideal, but it could be done.
Is there a general cost range-ish, again, to make sure that it fits in a funding envelope? That's
Yeah,
supportive,
so-
but
For the pool or for the
for
overall?
the whole thing, if you were,
Yeah.
if you were just assuming you're gonna do it all.
Not yet. So, and I say that, I mean, honestly, we kind of started to get numbers together for this, and we just kind of
40
said,
40 million, 30 million, 22 million?
yes.
Good answer.
I mean, it's probably not the last one you said, but it'd be nice if it weren't the first one you said.
So 30-ish might be reasonable?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But, and I say that, well, first, I mean, just to be honest, y'all are a group of people, y'all might look at this and say, y'all are all crazy, and we don't need to get our cost estimator or us to try to provide better numbers, better order of magnitude costs. So, part of this is let's make sure we're kind of on the right track. But then that really starts to get into, various decisions. Like when we looked at this gym, we want to look at that with 3 courts, but we know we could pare back to 2 courts. And so we want to be able to provide a range of costs there. Or the outdoor pool, like we sketched, that's a big pool, potentially a 50-meter long, and a leisure pool, which is kind of, sorry, that's 50 meters, that's a leisure pool, that's 25 that direction. So those are big kind of cost decisions, and I think we need to drill down better with Parks and Rec in the city to say, what's the likelihood of these various things, and then provide y'all with a better order of magnitude cost. And I think that is one of our next steps. I didn't put that on the next steps, but that would be something, because if this is a feasible approach, and we start going through an actual P&Z process, at the same time, we would be coming up with, or very quickly, an order of magnitude cost to make sure it's feasible.
Parenthetically, if we could do some sort of public-private partnership for residential development to take the northern part, going out to the Comer ball fields, above and through the old Avondale property where we already own the roads, and have some options to be able to get land, using the public-private partnership as a way of making this a joint project that included the desperately needed housing. It would all glue together and fix all of that mess between the several places around Earth, and we've got a whole new ecosystem of everything all together.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen, you just touched on a little bit, but the next steps for the city council people that are here is hopefully the second meeting in March, we'll have some budget, depending on how this meeting goes and the feedback we got, we might have to tailor a little bit, but the plan would be to provide that budgetary information and present the council the deliverables that we agreed upon.
And that's been kind of, you know, we've been talking about this thing, it seems like forever. It's like, we've never been given a number to stay within. So obviously, we're gonna say we need all this, you know, cause you can also pare down, but if you don't include it in the original drawing, you're never gonna get it.
Right.
So like, I mean, 3 gyms is a perfect world for us. I mean, Ryan Platt coaches basketball for us, he can tell you, we are smacked in little bitty gyms all over Sylacauga. The 10-lane pool, indoor pool, that gives you flexibility to host a lot of stuff that's not local swim team tournaments. I mean, yeah, we want to serve our community for sure, but when you open up the long swim, which is meters, that brings in U.S. swim meets and like things from Opelika areas. Like Sylacauga's in the middle of a lot of swimming. You know, you get a Huntsville and Opelika and Birmingham area. Like we could bring in those people. And my goal is always recreation for our locals first. But at the end of the day, we've got to offset cost for staffing these things. So you
People
know, we're
love
going to
going
have
to
to look
swim
at
meets.
generating money.
Outside of their home base, but a Birminghamian would sure love to go to Sylacauga instead of Mobile, because that's a lot shorter, and they're not at home. Or to have that, and then have that your team come up to Birmingham and return the favor. So, yeah.
But you know, historically
Right,
around
it's-
here, everybody's like, you need to build baseball fields so you can host travel ball. Well, I mean, we're 20 years behind that. Like they've built baseball fields all over the place.
Everywhere.
The thing that I'm noticing in Parks and Rec where we struggle to find places to host things is basketball and volleyball, and it's both cause the same thing, is gym space. And like most 1970 recs are one gym. And if you bring in 24 teams, you're in 10 different locations. I mean, we would have every gym from Fayetteville to Sycamore if we tried to do something like that. And not to mention, we could fill those gyms today with gymnastics, baton, karate, and volleyball and basketball and everything else that we're currently doing. Do you have any questions for us? I know y'all got one on your agenda.
The pool, the competition pool, is that the indoor or the outdoor?
That would be the indoor.
It would not be a 50 meter, it'd be more like 20, probably 25 yard. And when Steve, so that sets your length. Your width could be 6 lanes, 8 lanes, 10 lanes, and you get into all kind of details like how wide are the lanes and that, you know, so all that starts to dictate general cost, but it would be deep enough inside to where you could have we call that short course or 25-yard short course meets with some amount of spectator seating, not like if you've been to the Crossplex, you know, that's a lot, that's like 1,000 seats or something, not that level of seating, but you could have, you know, 100, 200 seats easily. So you could have events in there. You know, what you get to with spectator seating is nobody wants to stay in the indoor pool too long because your head starts to feel like it's gonna explode. So people go hang out forever, then go watch their kids swim for 3 minutes, and then they go hang out forever.
But the other consideration is not just a competition pool.
Right.
You know, there's area for water aerobics, there's area for water therapy,
Yeah.
those kind of things as well.
Training and instruction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And having multiples is key, so something's not always blocking somebody else from doing something that's not competition.
So, what's the holdup
For what?
for getting moving? Do you need a budget? What do you need?
Well, I mean, obviously we need a budget, but, the interruptions that we had in the past when we were originally talking about this did come from people representing zoning, saying that you can't do that until you get this approved. So, I mean, obviously, we don't want to draw big plans and spend money on cost assessments and all that without, and thinking that it's gonna get blocked or turned down just based off location. So when we start talking about location, obviously we have to come through y'all.
But you've already gone through all these other locations, and for some reason or
We've-
another, they're
We've
just
talked
not
about them for
feasible.
2.5 years.
Mhm.
And we actually formed a whole new committee, and there were 2 people that were on the old committee. And we went through all the sites again when we and Blackstock and Ryan was hired, and everyone else said, why are we talking about location? We want this spot. So, I mean,
But also, I mean, I would say some of those considerations, I think really do bear out acreage needed and, you know, like call that quantitative or enabling needs, you know, like do you have to extend a road or site infrastructure to get to it, which adds cost. And then qualitative things like, is it a place that a city would be proud of to have? Is it accessible easily by vehicle? Is it potentially connectable, you know, for pedestrians? I know that's more qualities, but it's still important, you know.
But done right, it's
So-
also an economic engine.
What's that?
Done right, it's also an economic engine. It brings traffic to and through town rather than around it.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
And that's, you know, look at what Talladega did. They did everything they could to work around Talladega, and they killed it.
Mr. McGee, weren't you on some of those committees? You got any input on this, any insight?
I think you answered the question of a lot of people. You put commercial in there, and quite a few,
Right.
I think, were concerned that was about the big 2 that we had left.
Well, I think if what you're needing is to get our opinion on whether or not you should spend all this money, I think we should just poll the room and see if there's any big objections to this site. Because until you start those studies, we're going nowhere.
right, I mean, we realize that we can't put it up for a vote today, but
Well,
we
no,
wanted to include
I just
y'all,
wanna
and
know, are
so
there
this is
any
the right
big
direction.
objections
Right.
Can
to
I,
going in this direction?
can I add to that? I think next steps, I mean, just ideally, would be parallel track. Like we call this concept phase, not even full design, like our feasibility phase. Like one track is we work through official zoning to get this PUD, provided there's no roadblocks. At the same time, we're working on order of magnitude cost. So, and you know, probably a little better than hand sketches that are colored and stuff, so that we can then present to the city officially, say, we're gonna get real nervous here because then we're gonna tell you an order of magnitude cost, and if you wanna go bond that or however you wanna fund it, this is what it should be. Overall project cost based on these parameters, these decisions. And as Steve said, you could pull back, you could subtract a gem, but here's what you asked for. And do you have an appetite to build it? Yes or no? Or do you have an appetite to build part of it? And your charge as a city to us could be figure out how to phase this and build half of it first or something.
Yeah, I think
So-
I think our key's gonna be to phase it so we can phase the bonding. We've got the revenue coming in to pay it, but getting it completed, we need to have it in pre-approved stages that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think parallel track of those 2 things, we don't need to do that extra work and provide that cost if the site kind of in an official manner from a planning and zoning perspective is not gonna go anywhere for some reason. So we would be working those parallel, because we, you know, before we enter into full design phase, we need to be able to say, it's gonna be X. Do y'all wanna do that? Can y'all do it? And how do we do it?
Because
And
the
we
order
can be
of-
thinking about phasing and things.
The order of magnitude cost on that site versus the order of magnitude cost on north of Central Avenue are 2 completely different
We
numbers.
looked at that site and it was.
Yeah.
Massively
I do have a
different.
question.
Yeah.
Your pedestrian connectivity, where are you thinking the pedestrians will be crossing to get? Cause safety's a big issue that planning
Yeah.
and zoning is supposed to be
So,
considering.
I mean.
Can I answer that as the
Please.
guy who walks every morning at
Yes,
5
yeah.
o'clock? Definitely on Norton.
Yeah.
You know, you're not gonna cross in front of Jack's and the gas station. The
Yeah.
sidewalk's already on the other side of Norton there. Now, obviously, it could be improved drastically. But, I mean, you could walk from behind the if this was completed, you could walk from there all the way to the end of Norton. And
I just
come
wanted
back
to make
up
sure you
Broadway.
weren't trying to do something over 21 or,
No, ma'am.
cause, you know, there were
Nah.
talk about a red light and all that has been previous, and I was hoping that it was Norton, cause that.
And I had made the comment when all this sidewalk stuff started, you know, when I walk at 5 in the morning, like, I don't even go in front of Jack's. I go ahead and cross by the wreck over there to get to Noble Park, cause that's a busy little section.
Yeah.
And they're slowing down off 21 or shooting in front of another car off 21. But by the time you get to Norton back there, they've had time to kind of gather themselves, so.
Would a red light need to be put at Norton and that,
10th.
because not everybody stops at that stop sign.
Nobody stops. You know, I worked in the Mill Village for 12 years and people pulled out in front of me every day. But when I guess we're gonna have to get traffic counts to answer that kind of question, but that traffic coming behind that right now is extremely minimal.
I'm talking about the side street.
The 10th.
Just shooting
10th,
across right there.
I think with
Right.
That's,
Earth
I mean,
development
I have been
and
backed
this,
up
it's
to
gonna
the
add a lot
gas
of traffic
station,
there.
that's what I'm concerned about, for children coming out of high school, they're gonna all wanna go as a group, or people gonna wait, you see
So
what
are
I'm
you
saying?
you're talking on Broadway and 10th?
Mm-mm.
Or-
I'm talking
No,
about
right here.
10th and Norton.
North
and Norton, okay.
Right there.
I mean,
That
I would
stop sign,
propose
people
a
just roll through it.
pedestrian cross and at least a 4-way stop. There's 2-way stop. If you put a 4-way stop with a
Yeah.
pedestrian there, I mean, to me, that answers that question, because most people that come that far down Norton are turning. They're not going
That's
through. So if you had a 4-way stop where they could go right or left, Walmart or 21, that kind of solves that problem to me.
If they turn right though, that's where the children are crossing.
It is.
And I'm gonna tell you, we use Bluebell's pedestrian crossing, they don't stop.
No, they don't stop.
We're in the middle of the road and
Yeah.
Well, it's because they're looking down.
And you don't want to
You're
cross.
never gonna
They don't
fix
care.
that.
You don't want to
They're
cross
doing
that
this,
street.
You know.
So you can
No.
avoid
But I
it.
was
So
just concerned about the traffic backing
Yeah.
up, waiting for the,
I mean, I would like to. I think
we do need
I
a
feel like
traffic.
Steve would be right on target that a 4-way stop and you change behaviors because the development goes in, and we see that more time and time again. I mean, that can be verified, but yeah.
So are there any major objections to moving forward with studies for this
One I've
site?
seen.
Me
I
too.
like this one a lot.
I've seen the others and I like this one the best.
This.
All the other sites have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Whether it was accessibility
And a lot of it
or,
was pedestrian.
Do we have to, will we have to rezone this from, cause it's TTV right now.
it
isn't
has to be a conditional use, but they're talking about doing a PUD on this. But, I mean, there's nothing for us to do now, we have to wait until they move forward. But they have a lot of expensive studies to
Right.
conduct, and they're just wanting to know, okay, do we keep moving forward and spending money? Because there were some objections being raised.
I wouldn't guess, I like this one.
And I think it fits, from what I remember of the comprehensive plan that we did, I think it really fits more into our comprehensive plan by having that commercial, piece. And a dog park, that's the green, I
And the
mean,
DTV was supposed to be a walkable district, and the sidewalks and all that is all for,
I mean, to
it's
me, it
good.
looks like it fits our comprehensive plan better than anything y'all could.
We've been listening. We've been taking a lot of notes.
E.F.
But,
Hutton,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a question about the PUD, because that's not Parks and Rec world. So when we were talking about that, you know, we have so much frontage right there on 21. It was basically to control what the commercial would look like. Wasn't that the general idea? Because, I mean, you don't want to spend all that money on glass and beautiful architecture.
That's
And,
part of it. Yeah.
you know, they pop up a smoke vape shop next door to you.
Right.
You know.
I mean,
Or a low-level strip center.
Yeah.
Something that you wouldn't be as
I
proud
mean, I
of
think
next.
I would say it's kind of three things, and now you're just sounding like a vain architect, Steve.
Well, I mean, I was at Fairhope yesterday,
But-
and they had a cedar shaped Dollar General. So, like, obviously there
Yeah.
were standards that had to be met.
So I
right?
would say the exterior, what it looks like, it would be important, and I think because it's in close proximity, and the zoning ordinance says this, being harmonious, being consistent with each other, I think is important and a real opportunity. Then I think site planning, like, if this were way out here, like if somebody came in and was like, we're gonna flip the parking and put back, behind the building, all of a sudden, that property, that building is blocking view of your really expensive, proud community building. And then the third would be site access and doing it in a way that works for everyone, is easy to understand. Mike?
To answer your question, Steve, and a problem we just had downstairs when you asked about can a covenant be put in this subdivision. When you do a PUD, you can drill it down as far as you want, as far as aesthetics, single shakes, whatever. And if a developer buys that piece of property to develop it, they have to build according to what was put in that PUD. They can't divert from that without going through this whole process again, which chances are they're not gonna do.
And that's enforceable by the city.
That's enforceable. We don't issue a permit unless it meets what's in the PUD.
Right. And I think, to me, what's really exciting about this, I mean, you do want it harmonious, and, I mean, the proximity, kind of is an economic engine. People will come to it because they're coming to the rec center. To me, it becomes kind of a really attractive proposition for a developer. Whereas, as y'all have seen, and we all get it, a developer's first look at Sylacauga is probably going to be on 280, and then go from there. But you're creating a magnet here, so I think it would be very advantageous for a
I'd
developer.
love to see housing though. So many people
Yeah.
say they wanna live downtown, walkable. They
And this would
They
actually,
ask all the time
this would
whether or
be a
not I like
hybrid.
living downtown.
Yeah.
I love it.
yeah.
And there is no land left on 280. You bump into Oak Grove, you're done. We're packed.
Yeah. So I guess my thought, recommendation / question here would be, we can totally sketch that up, but would it make more sense to have that as kind of a separate effort, but to do it in a way that plants seeds for the city, just so that this development is also not hamstrung by that, and it's just kind of contained by these 4 roads? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I mean, we could totally do a quick density study as part of this,
So it could attract
and
developers
it
to
could go
residential.
over here and do some character and image examples, townhomes, 2-story, 3-story, whatever. Like,
I think the council and the planning commission, from looking at what comes up here asking us for places around town, I think if you hamstring the first part of it, and you already had it created into a subdivision, this person's buying something that's ready to build on. Versus going through an approval process and getting it zoned the way it needs to be zoned. If nothing else, the part that touches that, and what Lee alluded to earlier, maybe the back of it is a general overview, just come to us with what you got kind of thing, but I really think the part that touches it needs to be hamstringed a little bit.
which would, you mean that right there?
Along Central Avenue,
Yeah.
but as far as residential is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, I got
No,
you.
I'm sorry, I meant residential,
I
I
got
thought
you.
we were over the commercial.
So like if it were to go out over here,
Or just take the
or
whole
north.
front of Central.
yeah. Yeah, I'll figure it.
So you're saying they're more likely to develop if they put the residential in the PUD? Is that what I'm hearing?
But what you're doing is you're going ahead and create a ready to build on subdivision.
Uh-huh.
So as soon as they buy it and make the deal, they're ready to build. Versus what you just went through downstairs.
But not having a developer isn't going to hold up the development of the rec.
No, hopefully the city won't be building houses, I do hope that.
Well, no. I'm just saying if they don't find a developer to buy the land and
Right.
develop, that's not gonna hold up the rec.
No, it just gives them something ready,
Yeah.
and that can be a phase in the PUD that doesn't have to be done right now, but on paper, it's ready to go.
Future use.
Okay.
Which is what is in our comprehensive plan
Correct.
for 21.
Yeah, I think what I would wanna understand better is, you know, I think when we look at a commercial spot parcel right there, I think we do a lot of retail, we can figure out a strategy and really what we sketched that works for retail development, that we can outline parameters, or we can hamstring the developer, but still make it really attractive
But
and
I like
functional.
hamstringing the developer on the residential
Yeah.
also, because then it can be nicer
Right.
and not just,
Well,
because
then,
people want homes around a park.
so that's exactly what I was gonna get to. I don't currently have a good idea of, would that be, you know, 2-story townhomes? Would that be single family really close together? Would that be possibly, you know, 3-story? I don't know, and we would need to do some density studies, and we do a lot of housing. We could talk to a developer or two, but to me that, you know, what if we hamstring a developer and a housing developer, because they have this down to a science to maximize their profits, says, I mean, it's beautiful, but we're not building that because we can't get enough return on investment for that. And I don't know that yet. Does that make sense? I mean, they may say, you know, just, I gotta have more doors more density to make it work. And, we can do those studies. I just get a little worried that if we get too prescriptive, a developer, or we might just need to do more study to make sure we understand that.
What we have people looking for are higher end, non-income based apartments and small.
Without yard work.
Self-contained condo style, where they don't have to worry about their yard work. They come home, they live, they can walk right in front of the house and have a walking track or a
Yeah.
swimming pool.
Yeah, and you think, I mean, we've done this with a lot of different cities. We were just talking with Chelsea, with the developer, a for rent product would not meet with, high-end for rent product would be acceptable to the community. It's just, I mean, we get this in every community. You know, it's amazing what people think is gonna happen, and it's like,
High end in
really
Sylacauga is a little bit different than high end in Mountain Brook though. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
we're talking about, you know, teachers coming into town to teach, people that move to town to work at the hospital as a nurse or whatever.
yeah,
We're not talking about,
And while that,
Starter homes.
yeah.
It's
Or
transition.
Or
to
retirement.
see if they make it through their
I mean, people are
contract.
wanting
or-
stuff, no maintenance for, you know.
that site still has the same, I mean, even though it's easier, I think, to build residential type, facilities on that site, it's probably easier than what we're talking about, big expensive commercial space. It's still gonna be a barrier, there's still a hill,
Well, yeah.
and a developer is not necessarily looking for hills.
Oh, big silly point, overview, looking over the city.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the roads going off 21, Taylor Estates and all that, they go up and wind and.
yeah.
Yeah, lots of space there to spread out. in the
You'd probably be
Taylor
looking
Estates.
at maybe entering into a garage, and then your living is on
Yeah, that's
one
right.
or two levels above that. Yeah, and then fourplex townhomes connected together or something like that.
We're saying that we can do the, I'm saying that we can do the PUD on both of them at the same time.
No, it would be one
A
PUD.
PUD
Yeah.
includes all of it.
Yeah.
You just add the land you want in the PUD. The PUD can be small or large, which might as well do
Yeah.
but we wouldn't be
Yeah.
designing.
We
homes
tried to
and
do a
stuff.
PUD before,
Yeah.
out 21,
Okay. Didn't work.
it just died.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why, because it sounded like great use of that acreage after the Hightower farm, remember?
Yeah. It was all private development. Yeah. And I think what would be really positive here is the driver is a municipal project.
Yep.
So. All right, so I'm hearing develop the, it's alignment to proceed, no opposition with development of this strategy of looking at housing component north of Central Avenue.
Well, thank you.
That's exciting.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank y'all. Yeah, very much.